TV film producer director responsible for such outstanding productions as the original Frost-Nixon Interview, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. He's produced, directed, or mentored many, many celebrities: Frank Sinatra, the Rolling Stones, Elvis Presley, and the one we're going to be talking to him about, the Beatles reunion of 2020. He's received 39 Emmy nominations and received 14 Emmys. He heads up his own independent film production company, recently completing an independent feature, Shakespeare's Cat. And besides that, he's got a Power Mentor directing program that teaches students everything they have to know within 3 weeks. Yorn, welcome. I'm so pleased to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yorn, what is your native country?
I'm from Denmark.
I think we all know that.
Denmark is so flat that if your dog runs away, you can watch it for 4 days.
Well, I've had the pleasure of visiting Denmark. I love Denmark. I love the Danish people, and I love the food. Okay, Yorn, how did you first get interested in your profession, and how did you start out?
My mother was the prima donna ballerina at the Royal Theatre in Copenhagen.
Ooh.
And she wanted me to be a ballet dancer. But I ended up playing on the Danish Olympic soccer team instead. And but I wanted to be an actor in Hollywood. My heroes at that time was Shirley Temple, because she was born the same day as me.
Oh, I know.
And the other one was Louis Armstrong. I had all his 78 records. And the last one was Frank Sinatra. And I worked with all of them.
That is terrific. Well, I'm glad you went that route and not the route of ballet. Yeah. But now you're also here to talk about, let's get right to it, the Beatles reunion show for 2020. What year was that, and how did that come about, and when did it air?
It was in 1979, and it was actually for ABC Wide World of Entertainment.
Uh-huh.
And so I did 2020, but we didn't have the Beatles on 2020.
Well, now that's interesting. You know, all of the everything that you read on the web combines that with 2020.
Oh yeah, well that's possible.
Well, okay, well we'll
not
scratch that.
But it was a special done by ABC.
Oh, okay.
And it was done 1979. John Lennon died like a year later, 1980, I think. Yeah. The first time I worked with the Beatles was 1964, which was a show called Shindig.
Ah, where was that?
That was actually recorded in London.
Uh-huh.
And it was then played. It was October 3rd, 1964. They sang Kansas City, hey, 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 and I'm a loser. And it was recorded in London. We were in London, and then it played United States October 7th.
Wow.
And that was the first time I met the Beatles.
And I want to know, are there any videos or tapes left from either of those shows? Do you have a record of it?
Yeah, I do actually have the show we did in 1979 was not called The Reunion, it was called Salute to the Beatles.
How about
and it was
that?
Hosted by David Frost.
Wow.
And George Martin.
A lot of wrong information out there.
And their road manager,
uh-huh.
Who's actually the one that got them together.
How about
and
that?
John Lennon was interviewed on the beach in Santa Monica Pier, and Paul McCartney. I was not there when that interview was done because I did the live studio show. And according to what they told me, Paul McCartney was sitting at the end of Santa Monica Pier with a big hat on, fishing. And he was interviewed by Elliot, can't remember his last name.
Uh-huh.
And he went and placed him so he could see. Paul took out his hat, and John Lennon went over to him and said, "Are you catching anything?" And Paul apparently said, "I just caught you." And then they embraced. Now, that's a hearsay, but something like that. Then I came into the studio afterwards. They all came into the studio, and that's where I worked with them.
What was your reaction to them personally? I mean, what did you get from them?
Personally, it was very, very good. They worked very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
When they were working, for instance, they didn't take any drugs or anything like that. They were very concentrated, and I have never smoked pot or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a cigarette addict. I smoked 100 a day.
Oh.
But when they would put the pot around, I passed it on. They would all stand up and applaud. But they wanted to work, and they always wanted to be good.
Good for them.
For me, it was the biggest problem I had getting them off stage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the Rolling Stone, I mean, you were lucky if they showed up that year. So
quite a difference.
Big difference, yeah.
And were you a fan at the time?
Beatles,
when you
I love the
yeah,
Beatles, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like you were someone working
No,
with
I
them
saw
that
them
thought,
on
these
the,
kids.
then of course when they were on that Sullivan show, that's when they premiered Yesterday.
Right,
which was
right.
to me one of their
Yeah,
best hits.
yeah.
But their musics are now standard, it's
Well, I was going to ask you about any inherent difficulties, and it sounds like they were just
They were
perfect,
very
these
easy.
perfect kids.
very,
and,
very easy to work with because they wanted to be good.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they never played again together, because Paul at that time had another band called Reds or Red Wing or something like that, and they felt they could never really blend their sound again and sound the same way.
Yeah.
But the reunion, there was a reunion at the Beatles in 1994, the three remaining one.
Yeah.
That's where the three of them got together and sang for the first time in 1994. So that was a reunion without John Lennon, obviously.
Yeah. And where did that take place?
That took place, I'm not sure.
No, I don't remember either.
In London, I'm sure it's in London.
Yeah, I read about that too and couldn't find.
But I listened to some of it this morning because I found it on the internet. It sounded pretty good. They were pretty cool.
Yeah, on YouTube or videos or one of those. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the Frost-Nixon show, because certainly that's an historical thing. What have you got to tell us about that?
David Frost was again the host. It was him that organized the whole thing. He got he made his own deal. It was syndicated all over the world, and of course, because of the Nixon movie, it's been all over the place.
Sure.
Again. And the main thing is, on the way down, we were all liberal at that time. We all have changed in certain ways. Some are still liberal, some are not. But we didn't like Nixon, okay? And we had several reporters from Washington Post, So the main thing we were discussing on the way down there was that we didn't want a presidential seal between him and David Frost. So when we came in, we were all a little bit awed because you're still the president of the United States, who was the most powerful man in the world. So even though we had that, we were a little awed. And then Nixon finally said, okay, what's going to be in between us?
Oh.
And then David Frost, there was a long pause. Then he looked at me, he said, Yorn, you're the director, what should be in between them? So I thought of it for a while, and I said, what about a map of Denmark? And they all broke down, including Nixon, and somehow it went away, and we actually had bookcases in between. But here's this thing I wanted to tell. He took me over to a big globe, and he took the globe around, and then he found Denmark. He said, look at that little country there. It's not that important in world affairs, right? So I said, no. So he spun the globe some more, and then he said, this is Cuba, about the same size, but this is a real blister, he said. And then he did the globe and said, this is China. And if we don't look out for China, they're going to own us. So he was very good in international politics.
Yes, that's true.
All he had to do, like most of these people had to do, was say, we shouldn't have done that, we shouldn't have broken in, I'm sorry about it, would have gone away. The problem everybody had is always lie about it.
Yeah. Well, he did open up China, didn't he?
He did,
that's for sure.
That's my Nixon story.
Yeah. And you had no difficulties with that. What was your reaction? You talked about being awed by the president, but how did you think that show went? Because I can remember reading, and I've read recently too, that there were some disappointments that Nixon didn't come out and say certain things. But overall, did you feel it was good? And how did it compare to the film later that was made?
Well, the film was pretty good. It didn't deal with at all with how we got it on the air, which was really the most
That's
difficulties we had. And for instance, also we edited the movie behind the massage parlor because everybody was trying to get a hold of it. I got offered $80,000 to leak information. Several of us were offered money to leak information, but we never did.
Yeah.
And I was edited for 4 weeks. I was home twice. I don't remember. I was home. I was in a limo. So we edited like constantly. And the girls were working up front, and we were hiding behind the massage parlor.
Talk a little bit about you mentioned the difficulty in getting it on the air. What were some of those problems that you had to deal with?
Some of the problems was, what Nixon was going to say and what he was going to admit to, and there was a lot of discussion. I was not involved with a lot of those. That was mainly David Frost, like in the movie, and there were like three or four of them, including his friends that said that he actually lives here now. His Colonel somebody, and you'll be pissed if you hear that.
Well, we'll just say it was Colonel somebody. That's all right.
But he's very nice. I don't remember his name because I have 6 kids. I don't remember their names. So. But anyway, that was like, and then we had an incident where there suddenly was a big bang, the sound like a pistol shot, and I was sitting in the truck outside. We got inside. We were all, by the FBI, we were all put down into the basement. And what had happened was that even though the FBI, the CIA, I don't know, had been there 2 weeks ahead of time, to make sure that everything was cool, because it was somebody else's house we were in.
Yeah.
And they had missed, this guy had a weapon collection. And there was the whole wall from the ceiling to the floor was weapons with ammunition. And they had missed all that.
Oh my gosh.
So, and that pistol shot was actually a bulb that exploded. But we were in the truck, we thought, oh my God, he has been shot. But and then we all had pictures taken with him, and he was, he told me, I spent a lot of time with him, and he telling me stories about him and Gorbachev, how they would get into cars, and the Chinese guy telling dirty stories, when... And he would tell, the worst one was the Mink, whatever his name was in China at that time, and he would tell the dirty stories. But they would go in Russia in a big limo, and they would, both the KGB and FBI would check it so there would be no recordings. And then the two of them would drive around and talk. That's right.
Yeah. Now, where was the Nixon taping actually done? Was that in L.A.?
That was done in Orange County.
It was.
Yeah, we couldn't do it at his office because the ships, Navy ships, were outside, and the radar interfered with our signal in those days. And he phoned up to get rid of it. But he wasn't the president anymore, so they basically told him to forget it.
So he was still living at his beach place,
He was still
his
living
residence.
in San Clemente.
Yeah.
And so we had to move out of San Clemente because he couldn't move the Navy anymore. So that's true, I couldn't.
Well, the sad part of no longer being a president.
That's right, yeah. So we moved into somebody's house in Orange County, close to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel down there. And then it was like, checked out by the FBI, CIA, I can't remember who does it. So they had missed all these weapons and stuff like that. So that was a big deal. And then there was a lot of reporters that had located it, and they would masquerade as gardeners and cleaning.
Oh, that must have been a
like
wild time to
Everybody
do
was
that.
trying to get the first kind of glimpse at this,
Well, now let's talk about your film. You've got a new film that you're working on. So tell us about that.
Called Without Warning. It's written by an FBI agent called Herb Klug. It's a book, and it's took place in Palm Springs, 1979. And it's a woman called Chadwick. She was a very rich socialite that gave a lot of money to charity, and her husband. And the woman got kidnapped by a guy and his young girlfriend was kept up in Joshua Mountains. So,
and what was the woman's name?
It's Chadwick.
Chadwick?
Chadwick. Yeah,
Chadwick.
Because I only speak English on Sundays. So.
Yeah, right.
So
she was kept up in Yucca Valley?
Yeah, her name was Elaine Chadwick, and her husband was Harry. And she was kept up there for 3 or 4 weeks as the FBI tried to get her without letting the press know.
Yeah.
So it was a huge operation with a lot of emotion and stuff. And particularly the thing between her and the two kids, so to speak, they were like the kids.
The kidnappers?
30, 30 and a woman like 28 or 27 or something. And so that was, sometimes the guy was... had a lot of problems. I don't want to go into that. It's too detailed.
Yeah, right.
Too long.
And we want to see it in the movie.
He was a bad guy.
Yeah, they were the bad guys.
So I'm raising money for that, and when I'm trying to get, you're probably doing maybe Anthony Hopkins playing Harry and Gina Rowlands. I talked to Helen Mirren, but she's gotten busy now. But I spoke to her about it.
Jenna Rowlands would be great.
Yeah, she's great. And then Anthony Hopkins would be her husband.
Yeah. How far along are you on this?
I'm as far along as trying to get the investors. Like for Shakespeare's Cat, I did too. It's a little slower now because nobody has any money, or they're nervous.
Yeah.
So it's taken me. So I'm in what you're calling development hell.
Oh, okay, development hell. I like that, development hell.